It's nearly the end of 2025, and Hinterland remains silent on the topic of Wintermute Episode 5, and in general. With the latest release window being the end of 2025, we are rapidly approaching what should be the final weeks of waiting. Hopefully, we get a dev diary soon with a confirmation on its release. Part of me was skeptical that it was going to be delayed again, but I will remain cautiously optimistic for this video. I need it to be out before Episode 5 releases, so let's get it out of the way now. This video will be about everything we know about Wintermute Episode 5 so far, from the story details we have to the concept art shared so far. Let's start with the original teaser from all the way back in December 2023. Back then, Hinterland shared the title of Episode 5, which is The Light at the End of All Things. That is quite the lengthy title compared to previous episodes, but I think an epic conclusion to Wintermute should have an epic name. The name suggests that this is the end. Not just the end of Wintermute, but the end of everything. What I mean by that is we may get confirmation that the end of the world has arrived in the form of the Aurora Lights. Obviously, we know that the world has ended considering a sequel to The Long Dark is on the way, but the characters don't know that yet. The light at the end of all things may quite literally refer to the first flare, but it could have another meaning as well. It could allude to the beacon of hope that is making its way to Great Bear Island to rescue the survivors of the Quiet Apocalypse. The ship we see in the teaser art has the Latin phrase in tenebris written on the back. In tenebris means in darkness. A version of the phrase from a 4th century Latin Bible was lux in tenebris, which means light in darkness. This seems like a fitting name in such dark times. If you look at the ship carefully, it has been heavily modified. We can see smokestacks and what looks like an electrified trellis. With these modifications in place, they are likely a way to allow for movement across the sea in day, night, with wind and aurora. We can also see the Union Jack, a British flag attached to the ship. This may suggest it is an old British naval ship from a bygone era, one where electronics didn't exist. The origin of the ship is still a mystery, but the modifications suggest that a very handy engineer had a lot of time on their hands in the early days of the Quiet Apocalypse. As I had previously speculated in other videos, the In Tenebris, which is what I will call the ship from now on, is likely a response to the radio call from Perseverance Mills. If you listen to both ends of the call from Will and Astrid's perspective, neither of them were the intended receiver of the call. Neither of them seemed to be actually talking to the caller at Perseverance Mills. I suspected that the person they contacted is responsible for the ship that is now on its way to Great Bear Island. Of course, I should mention the smoke in the distance, which appears to be where the ship is heading. The actual December 2023 dev diary begins by saying that Episode 5 brings to a conclusion the story of Mackenzie and Astrid, the hard case, Perseverance Mills, and the mysterious Aurora. From here, the original release window for Episode 5 was late 2024. It would then be delayed until early 2025, and then again to late 2025. Well, here we are more or less in late 2025, so fingers crossed. Moving on to the October 2024 dev diary, we get even more details on Episode 5 and our first look at concept art for a new location. In the dev diary, it states that the episode takes us to the Suzuki Radio Telescope, the enigmatic Atwood, Perseverance Mills, reveals the contents of Astrid's mysterious hard case, and brings to a head the conflict between Mackenzie and Mathis. With this, we get our core story threads for the Wintermute finale. We have Atwood and the meaning of Wintermute, Perseverance Mills and the hard case, and the conclusion of the conflict with Mathis. I assume we will also learn more about Will and Astrid's relationship, since that was something we were going to learn about at the start of Episode 1, but it was interrupted by the first flare. We also see that Episode 5 sets up the fiction and IP for future stories in more games, film, television, and beyond. This wasn't the first time that Hinterland had mentioned future games or other forms of media like TV and movies. They had been talking about them for a while by this point last year. Of course, 2 months after this dev diary, we get the announcement at the Game Awards 2024 that Black Frost, The Long Dark 2, was on the way. As for other forms of media within the Long Dark IP, I would personally love to see a graphic novel series. While a majority of this dev diary focuses on the Broken Silence update, we do get one more piece of information in the form of this concept art. The dev diary says, along the frozen shore near the hamlet of Perseverance Mills, meaning this is not Perseverance Mills. We can see Perseverance Mills very briefly at the end of episode 4, as well as the docks area on the shore. These docks don't match what we see at the end of episode 4, and Perseverance Mills seems to be further uphill from the shore. This little town is sitting right on the water, and the concept art reveals a lot of details about it. For one, not only does it have its own docks, but it has its own boardwalk. Some buildings even appear to be sitting on the boardwalk. There are what look like either a bulletin board or a kiosk of some kind in 2 places. These houses appear to be unique in style and have a wide variety of colors. They also seem much bigger and fancier than the ones across Lower Great Bear. We can see what look like garage doors on this big building. This building has the maple leaf from the Canadian flag on it, and the entrance almost resembles that of a larger store. This building in the back has a rather large archway, which could be for allowing large vehicles in. I was thinking it could be a fire station, but I could be wrong. Finally, we have this building on the left that has ladders that climb up to the window on the 2nd floor, which I'm not sure what that could mean. The town has what looks like a major road going through it, cutting through the hills on the left and moving along the coast on the right. This could be the Great Bear Highway, but we don't know. Just based on the concept art, this town is shaping up to be the biggest explorable settlement in the game, but that depends on how big Perseverance Mills ends up being. Looking back at these dev diaries, the amount of details on Wintermute has increased over time, with this one from April 2025 containing quite a bit of information. We even have 3 amazing pieces of concept art to look at. Let's start with the actual written diary. It says that the episode is the most ambitious we've built so far, and it has quite a few systems we haven't used in other episodes, so it's proving to be quite challenging for the team. Episode 5 has been delayed 3 times by this point, but the sheer size and scope of the episode more than makes up for them. Hinterland releasing episode 5 has to be done carefully because, once it's done, we can never go back. So that's really on our minds. The episode can't just be good, it has to be great. With all the pressure to finish Wintermute and the promises made over 10 years, I agree that it's better to delay episode 5 until it is absolutely ready. I'd rather have a polished content release than a buggy, broken mess. The dev diary goes on to clarify how massive episode 5 is. It has between 2 and 3 times more cinematic and story content as episode 4, which is the largest episode so far. The playable world in episode 5 will be 3 to 4 times as big as the playable world in episode 4, which only featured the Blackrock region and part of the Keeper's Pass transition region. This is really shaping up to be comparable to the size of the rest of Wintermute combined. We may even be exploring more than one region for episode 5, seeing as we need to visit the Suzuki Radio Telescope, which is likely high in the mountains, and Perseverance Mills, which is on the coast. We are going to explore quite a bit of Great Bear Island here. The diary continues by saying, there are a lot of story threads to tie up across all the episodes to wrap up the Wintermute storyline, but also to set the stage for the future of the Long Dark. So we have to take you to several different places and hear from a lot of new people. The locations explored in episode 5 are confirmed to be brand new. This is where I need to bring up the unfortunate reality we may have to face when episode 5 releases. As the episode focuses heavily on narrative more than Hinterland traditionally has in the past, the structure of episode 5 is different. Here we see that the mission flow for episode 5 is probably more linear than previous episodes as a result. This may mean that these new regions for episode 5 may not be released for survival mode. Raphael has stated in many places all over the internet that we should not be expecting these new regions to be released for survival mode. I get the feeling it is because they were not designed with survival mode in mind. With the linear nature of episode 5's story structure, I wouldn't be surprised if the world spaces they have created for it are more linear with few truly open areas. It isn't set in stone yet, as Raphael has never stated that they are excluding them from survival mode, but we should expect to maybe not see official releases of these maps. In the past, Hinterland always meant for Wintermute regions to be Wintermute exclusive, but they backtracked on that twice before. Once for Mountain Town, I believe, and once for Blackrock. They probably did it because the regions made sense for survival mode, but it really sounds like these new regions won't work for it. If they really are designed to be more linear, then I don't see them working in survival. Maybe with official modding added in the future, we may see them added in by the community. There is always hope though that they do get added. The dev diary continues by saying, I will confidently say that episode 5 will be the most ambitious thing we've done on the Long Dark at Hinterland to date. I know that won't mean much to you until you have it in your hands, but hopefully that gives you some sense of ambition behind the episode. Based on the multiple major story threads that need to be wrapped up, the size of the explorable world, the amount of cinematics, the new motion capture tech, all of the new gameplay systems, all the new and returning characters, the ability to play as both Will Mackenzie and Astrid Greenwood, and what sounds like an epic conclusion that establishes the future of the Long Dark IP, I say the long wait is worth it. This will be Hinterland's masterpiece, and I hope it is as great and as polished as possible. Even if they delay it again for a few months, I won't be mad. And when the day comes that episode 5 does release, we still have Black Frost on the horizon. Moving on, I want to give the 3 pieces of concept art shared with the April 2025 dev diary their own section because the actual diary had a lot of information. 2 of these concept art pieces look like they are part of the same interior, so I will talk about them together. Let me start with the other concept art because the other 2 are incredibly exciting to look at. I want to save the best for last. The other concept art, which is actually the second one in the April 2025 dev diary, shows what looks like the older brother of the Lonely Lighthouse in Desolation Point. I guess that would mean the Fallen Lighthouse in Bleak Inlet is the weird cousin you only see at Christmas. Sorry, Fallen Lighthouse. This new lighthouse is sitting high up on a rocky hill and is actually built into the rock. We can see the entrance down here with a path leading up from below. Up above, we have the main lighthouse sitting on the rock and an additional extension next to it. I would say that the Lonely Lighthouse is one of the most iconic locations on the Long Dark as it is featured in one of the game's challenges and provides a mesmerizing vista under aurora lights. Having another lighthouse location, especially one that has a unique look and structure, is very welcome. Having a new coastal area in the Long Dark isn't going to feel right without a lighthouse. Let's talk about the other 2 pieces of concept art which are very much a part of the same interior. Welcome to Cooper's Blind, which looks like a pub combined with a restaurant and a communal commons. It's giving Community Hall from Thompson's Crossing, but with a bar attached. The first piece shows the main pub area featuring the Cooper's Blind sign, the bar area, beer taps, coolers, and shelves for bottles, the more traditional restaurant-style booth seating, and a kitchen in the back. We also have these signs and paintings on the wall. We have Pine Pints, which may be a beer brand the bar used to have on tap. I say used to because beer would have probably been a rare commodity during the post-collapse era. It's possible that the bar has since been out of service, but that doesn't mean the Pine Pints sign, which looks like a howling wolf, has to go away. We have another sign that says Frosty Fresh, which I'm not sure what it's for. It features a glass of what looks like iced water and a lemon wedge. We also have Mills Drive, which is likely a novelty street sign that may be for the actual road the building sits next to. Of course, this is in Perseverance Mills, so Mills Drive makes sense. We also have John's, which could be for anything. It could be another beer brand, but we don't know. One of the paintings shows a man and a woman at their wedding. This one is of a woman, but nothing else could be deciphered from it. This one shows a coastal landscape with mountains in the distance. As for this, it is impossible to tell what it is. Besides the obvious candles and animal decorations present in the concept art, there's nothing else of note to mention. The last concept art has matching flooring and the same booth seating as the bar, which likely means that the bar is below this view of the image. We can see a fireplace drawing attention to this more communal area. There are bench seats and chairs, either a carved or taxidermied bear, a mounted moose, a mounted coho salmon, a darts board, and a second floor with seats and tables. We also have this sign that is hard to read but shows a person riding a log downriver. This is likely a poster showing the town's logging and milling routes. This likely means there is a river nearby or one that even flows through Perseverance Mills. This would be why the town is called Perseverance Mills and would be vital for its economy. Nowadays, I'm not so sure logging and milling is being done on Great Bear Island outside of Briar House, which operates on the opposite side of the island. The other signs and paintings are unfortunately too hard to decipher what they show. Besides all the candles, animal decorations, and cloth and rugs hanging from the second floor railing, that is about it for this piece. Together, these Cooper's Blind concept art pieces give us just a small glimpse of what to expect with Perseverance Mills. This is, as far as we know, the only bar and restaurant in the Long Dark, at least in the game. That wraps up this section with these incredible pieces of concept art. To end this video, I thought a quick summary of everything we know about Wintermute Episode 5 is in order. Let's start with the story threads. They include Will and Astrid's relationship, Atwood and Wintermute, Perseverance Mills and the hard case, Mathis versus Will, and I went ahead and added the end Tenebris and the ending. The confirmed locations we will be exploring are the Suzuki Radio Telescope, Perseverance Mills, which includes the Cooper's Blind Pub and Restaurant, the unnamed lighthouse, and the unnamed nearby town. I do get the feeling that there may be more locations that haven't been revealed yet, just based on the fact that the world space is supposed to be about 3 to 4 times bigger than it was in Episode 4. Also, the entire world space for Episode 5 is confirmed to be brand new to the game. Additionally, there will be about 2 to 3 times more cinematic and story content within Episode 5. The story structure for Episode 5 is more linear, which may mean that the world spaces could feel less open. We will be playing as both Will Mackenzie and Astrid Greenwood. There's new motion capture tech, which will likely mean that cutscenes and animations will be smoother. There are also entirely new gameplay systems that have been created for Episode 5. We will also be seeing new and returning characters as well. Finally, there are some things with the release of Episode 5 that are not guaranteed to happen. First, the regions within Episode 5 may or may not be released for survival mode. It's possible that they may never get officially released. And finally, Wintermute may not get any visual enhancements of any kind. Even before the visual enhancements update for survival mode, the two modes did not have visual parity. There may not be any visual enhancements for Wintermute, which I don't think is the end of the world. On a final note, I have a prediction about the release of Episode 5 that I made only recently. I believe Episode 5 may be stealth dropped very soon. Earlier this summer, I was very skeptical they would be able to get it done with all the complications, with the visual enhancements and the PlayStation platform issues. Very recently, on October 27th, Epic published an article about games that have some creepy elements but aren't considered horror games. The Long Dark, alongside games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and BioShock Infinite, were discussed. At the end, the article says that Raphael sees the sequel, Black Frost The Long Dark 2, set for release in early 2026, pushing these principles even further. First of all, this was news to me. Hinterland has never mentioned early 2026 for a Black Frost launch. Second, it's possible that the author of the article threw that in without confirmation. I would hope that the author would at least verify this with Raphael. Assuming this is the confirmed release window for Black Frost, that would mean Episode 5 has to launch before. I don't see a world with Episode 5 dropping after Black Frost. I recall the October 2024 dev diary saying, "You may have noticed that we haven't announced a release date for Episode 5. They were saying that by October, it would be too late for an announcement of an Episode 5 release by the next December. So if 2 months is not enough to do a whole marketing and hype cycle for Episode 5, and we are less than 2 months away from the end of 2025, the only possible way for Episode 5 to release this year is via stealth drop. That's assuming it needs to release before Black Frost, and that's also assuming that Black Frost is releasing in early 2026. Fortunately, Hinterland doesn't have an evil publisher overlord to shut the studio down after stealth dropping a critically acclaimed game. I know this is a lot of speculation based on a line from an article that might not have cleared Raphael, but I want to believe the author had some journalistic integrity when confirming the information. I've also noticed a friend of the channel making quite a bit of Wintermute content as of late, and he has an upcoming interview with Raphael. Something is stirring, and I want to believe it isn't just a coincidence. Take all of this with enough salt to cure some meat, because I could very well be wrong. I think that covers everything we know about Wintermute Episode 5 so far. I hope this video has made you even more excited for Episode 5 than you were before. Revisiting the old dev diaries and examining the concept art was a reminder of how hard Hinterland has been working for the past 11 years. This is where I want to say thank you to all the developers at Hinterland that have or are still working on The Long Dark. I know that the long wait for Episode 5 is unbearable for some, but I will remain patient no matter how long it takes. With its release being theoretically soon, now is the time to catch up on any lore videos you've missed. While I would recommend watching all of the videos in the mega playlist, I did make this playlist of Wintermute episode 5 essentials that you should definitely watch. The playlist of 7 videos includes the Wintermute episode 1 through 4 recap, what is Wintermute, the complete story of Rudiger's project, what is the Langston Mine outbreak, what is the Perseverance Mills outbreak, the significance of water in the Tales trilogy, and my predictions for Wintermute episode 5. There are a lot of spoilers in these videos for Rudiger's project, but it is necessary for episode 5. After all, there is a connection between what happened in the Langston Mine and what is happening in Wintermute. The episode 5 prep playlist will be linked in the description and on the end screen. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like for the algorithm so that I can keep making them. Also, there's this new thing called hyping on mobile that I don't know if it has any effect on the channel, but please leave a hype on the video if you can.